Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. An expert in the universe and the celestial bodies flying through space has revealed that a Star Trek Voyager scene was almost entirely scientifically inaccurate. The fifth TV show from the beloved franchise, Star Trek Voyager, focused on Captain Catherine Janeway and the crew of the USS Voyager's adventures as they attempt to return home to the Alpha Quadrant. The show aired for 7 seasons between 1995 and 2001. An insider video featured a cosmologist and astrophysicist named Dr. Paul Sutter judged the accuracy of that scene. Dr. Sutter gave the scene from Star Trek Voyager Season 7, Episode 15, Workforce, an accuracy score of just 0.2. However, Dr. Sutter did give the scene credit for the lack of stars and the use of a single word. Check out Dr. Sutter's explanation for his score below. Since Star Trek is one of the most beloved franchises the entertainment industry has ever created, there is no real risk that people will forget any of its shows. As a result, the team behind Star Trek Voyager certainly doesn't have to worry that the show will be overlooked simply because one of its scenes was so scientifically inaccurate. Still, that doesn't mean that a Star Trek Voyager scene having its scientific accuracy ravaged by a critic isn't detrimental to the show's legacy. While some Star Trek fans may count it as one of the best, Star Trek Voyager can be ranked as one of the franchise's worst shows. Whether that is a fair ranking or not, that is still an opinion that exists. One way Star Trek Voyager's legacy could have been enhanced is if it were demade a mostly scientifically accurate show. Conversely, the fact that Star Trek Voyager was dragged by an expert may negatively affect some people's opinions. When most fans talk about the Star Trek franchise, realism certainly wouldn't be the first word that comes up in the conversation. Instead, Star Trek fans love the franchise for its characters, stories, and themes. As a result, the fact that a Star Trek Voyager scene was deemed scientifically inaccurate feels somewhat disappointing. Instead, my biggest takeaway from looking back on the scientifically inaccurate Star Trek Voyager scene is focused on something else. That scene and the tension it was supposed to create simply feels unsatisfying. The Star Trek Voyager scene never makes the viewer feel like the crew of the USS Voyager is any serious peril, diminishing its ultimate impact. When Star Trek first aired in the 1960s, it wasn't trying to impress physicists, cosmologists, or the mathematicians who chart the very fabric of spacetime. It was a television show, a sweeping adventure that married philosophical morality tales with rockets, warp drives, and some admittedly wobbly set walls. But in 2025, with scientific understanding of the universe exponentially more advanced, one legendary scene from Star Trek the original series has come under a surprising kind of scrutiny. A top-rated cosmic void expert, one of only 5 specialists in the world qualified to study and model the immense, empty regions between galactic filaments, has weighed in. And the verdict? A blistering accuracy score that no one expected. Of all the adventures of the Starship Enterprise, none has haunted fans more than the eerie tension of the Tholian web. In this episode, Captain Kirk is lost in interdimensional space, trapped between universes after a transporter mishap. The crew must fight against both panic and the encroaching crystalline Tholian weapon, a lattice of pure energy designed to immobilize their ship. One sequence stands above all. Spock, in command, delivers a speech about the thin veil between dimensions, explaining that Kirk is not entirely gone, but suspended within a void between realities where matter ceases to obey ordinary rules. At the time, it was a moment of pure speculative fiction. But now, according to Dr. Celine Varga, a world-renowned expert on cosmic voids at the European Center for Extragalactic Physics, the scene isn't merely good drama, it's shockingly, blisteringly accurate. Dr. Varga, who has spent her career mapping the enormous regions of empty space between galactic clusters, recently appeared on a scientific panel discussing science and pop culture. When the Tholian web came up, She reportedly leaned forward and declared, "This is, bizarrely, one of the most accurate depictions of cosmic void theory I've ever seen in science fiction." Her reasoning? The idea that Kirk was suspended in a void that didn't obey conventional physical rules lines up eerily with what we know about large-scale voids today. Cosmic voids are not just empty space, she explained. They are regions where the density of matter is so low, the laws of structure formation unravel. Time, gravity, and even quantum fluctuations behave differently. If Kirk were displaced into such a region, half tethered to our universe, half lost beyond, it would feel exactly as the show depicted. Isolating, ghost-like, terrifying. The panel burst into laughter, but Varga wasn't joking. She assigned the scene an accuracy score of 8.7 out of 10, higher than most modern sci-fi blockbusters. Most fans don't tune into Star Trek for realism. They come for philosophy, adventure, and the characters who shape television history. But when science and fiction align, it gives the story an extra punch. In The Tholian Web, Spock's solemn explanation was less about astrophysics and more about loyalty, holding the crew together while their captain was trapped in an unknowable darkness. Yet, as Varga points out, the imagery closely mirrors modern simulations of cosmic voids, where galaxies vanish, light bends oddly, and the faintest traces of matter whisper through emptiness. To think that in 1968, a writer's imagination mapped so closely to discoveries made decades later, Varga said, is nothing short of prophetic. Varga didn't stop with Kirk's fate. She also praised the concept of the Tholian Web. In the episode, the crystalline aliens trap the Enterprise with glowing beams of energy, slowly weaving a net that tightens over time. While clearly a metaphorical weapon for television, Varga drew parallels to what physicists call quantum lattice structures that form in certain models of space-time foam. The idea that you could immobilize a starship not by brute force, but by constraining the geometry around it. That's brilliant, she said. That's the kind of thing quantum cosmologists talk about after a glass of wine. Her remarks sent waves across both fandom circles and scientific communities online, where memes immediately began circulating. Spock with a chalkboard of cosmological equations, Kirk photoshopped into a galaxy-sized bubble, and the Tholians recast as interdimensional mathematicians. This isn't the first time Star Trek has stumbled into startling accuracy. The franchise has long been credited with predicting cell phones, tablets, and even early concepts of 3D printing. But aligning with cosmic void research adds a new feather to its cap. In fact, cosmic voids themselves weren't formally studied until the late 1970s, when large-scale redshift surveys began revealing the bubble and filament structure of the universe. Yet here was Star Trek, 10 years earlier, describing an empty between worlds with poetic clarity. Science fiction writers aren't scientists, Varga concluded, but they're free to dream in ways scientists sometimes can't. And sometimes, by dreaming, they hit the target more squarely than they could possibly know. Once Varga's comments circulated, fan communities lit up with excitement. Some longtime Trekkies embraced the validation, proof that their beloved series had once again transcended mere television. Others, however, pushed back. Accuracy doesn't matter, one fan wrote on a forum. The point of the scene was Spock's leadership, not astrophysics. Giving it a score feels like missing the forest for the trees. But even the skeptics admitted that the idea of a void existing as Kirk's purgatory gave the episode a modern resonance. When you watch it now, said another fan, you realize Spock isn't just talking about Kirk. He's talking about us, how we all live at the edge of an unfathomable void and still choose loyalty and hope. Dr. Varga has promised to review more classic science fiction through her accuracy lens, but she admits none may ever surprise her as much as the Tholian Web. I was ready to laugh, she confessed in an interview. Instead, I found myself clapping. Her final verdict, an 8.7 blistering accuracy score, has now been immortalized in Star Trek trivia guides, memes, and even petitions demanding the Smithsonian update its Trek exhibits. For fans, it's another reminder of why Star Trek endures. Not because it's always right, but because it dares to imagine so boldly that sometimes reality itself scrambles to catch up. A classic scene, once just another page in television history, now resonates with a scientific authority it never expected. Kirk's entrapment between dimensions, Spock's calm reasoning, the eerie Tholian lattice, all of it has aged not only as good storytelling, but as eerily prescient cosmology. Star Trek was never about predicting the future with pinpoint precision. It was about showing us the possibilities. But every now and then, those possibilities turn out to be startlingly true. And when one of the world's top 5 cosmic void experts gives a blistering accuracy score to a 1968 television script, it's proof that fiction can sometimes be the most powerful kind of truth. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay with us.